Good morning. Today we are going to see about the load following. This is also one of the ancillary service management in the restructured power system. First of all, we need to know what is meant by load following. So load following is a frequency controlled ancillary service that maintains the balance between the generation and demand by responding to slow, predictable changes in the load. It operates after regulation and before reserves, because it is also a frequency control ancillary service that mainly maintains the balance between the generation and demand, so by also responding to slow and predictable change in the load. So usually it operates after the regulation, before the reserve, after the frequency regulation, before the. So why the load following is needed? Say for example, electrical load is not constant. Say for example, morning in the peak time, it is in the people may wake up, and that time after that it may immediately increase, and afternoon industrial load will be there, and the morning after 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock industrial load will be there. So half an hour break, and again industrial load will be there up to 6 p.m. So after that, the evening peak, that is for domestic consumers, evening peak will be there. Next, right time, night time will be the peak hours for the industries. So this load following is always needed. So electrical load is not a constant. So these variations are predictable. So we can easily predict these loads. Why? Because we can predict based on the other next previous year loads, or otherwise previous day loads, like that easily we can predict. And these are the main thing. Say for example, these variations are predictable, smooth, and occurs over the minutes to hours. So load following, so we need to follow the load, okay, and also to maintain the frequency deviation. So load following ensures generation tracks these changes. Okay. Next comes the load following versus regulation difference. So if you take like regulation, that what we have seen in the last class, and as well as the load following. So if you take like a nature of load change, if you take like regulation, it is fast and as well as random. Okay, so if you take like road following, it is predictable. So you can easily predict the load, and based on that, but nature of load change is slow. Time scale regulation seconds to minutes, but load following, so they will be in the load dispatch center. They will be seeing the how the load variation happens from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. They after that only they will give the command to the generator companies to on the other generators. So time scale is there. Next, control. In the regulation it is automatic generation control, whereas in the load following it is dispatch or ramping. Okay, dispatcher sudden ramp, sudden change in the system. That means, and also in the load following, control is happening by using the load dispatch. Next, what is the objective of regulation? Keeping the frequency tight. In load following, match the demand trends. Okay, we need to match the generation and the demand. That is the load following. Next comes the frequency deviation. Regulation, it is very small, but load following small but sustained. Okay, load following also will be there, very small but sustained. If example, if you take like a regulation, sudden AC switching. Okay, so but if you take like example of load following, so morning peak hours rise, and even afternoon peak hours, it is low for domestic consumers, like rise and low. Okay, it go up and down like that, ramp. Okay, so like regulation handles the noises, but load follow handles the shape of the load curve. Okay, regulation handles the noise, and load following handles the shape of this load curve. So load curve and load duration curve already we have discussed in detail in our previous classes, how to draw this load curve and load duration curve. So this regulation handle that is, but load following handle the shape of the load curve. Okay, just you can handle the shape of the load curve based on the demand. Next comes the time horizon of the load following. So if you take like a primary control, it is there from 5 to 10 seconds. But if you take like regulation, that secondary sides, the response time will be from the seconds to 10 minutes. So if you take like load following, as I said, it is from 5 to 30 minutes. Okay, we need to follow the load from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. Then only you can have to confirm that, because there will be sudden rise in the load and immediately there will be sudden drop in the load also. So you need to wait for some 5 to 30 minutes, such that you can follow the load. Based on that, you can control the frequency or other systems. Okay, next, territory reserves. So territory reserves, the typical response time is from 30 to 60 minutes. Next, what are the operational load role of for load following? So, what load following does? So, load following, it tracks the scheduled demand ramps. Okay, so it will tracks the whatever the scheduled demand, whatever the generation scheduled, and whatever the demand schedule, and also the ramps that rise and drop. Okay, so adjust the generator output smoothly. Okay, not immediately, it will be slow, and it adjusts the generator output smoothly, and also it maintains the frequency close to the nominal value. That means 49.5 to 51.2, like that. It adjusts the frequency to the nominal frequency, and also prevents the excessive use of regulatory reserves. Okay, it won't use the regulatory reserves more. Okay, so that is also, this load following will be taken care of. And if you take like what load following does not do, okay, it does not respond to sudden outages. If sudden outages happening, this load following won't have. So does not handle second by second fluctuation. As we have seen earlier, it is following the load from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. So it won't follow second by seconds, because second by seconds the load will be varying. So 1 second it will be up, 1 second it will be low, one side moderate, again low, again up, like that it will be keep on going. So it does not handle the second by second fluctuation, and also it does not respond to sudden outages. If you take like, a small example, say for example, from morning 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., the city load, that means a city load rises from 2000 megawatt to 2600 megawatt. Okay, before 6 a.m., that means up to 5:59 a.m., it might be some 2000. But 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. is the peak hours for city loads, okay, or domestic loads. There, the load is increasing to 2600 megawatts. The load following generator gradually increase the output to match this increase. Okay, so it won't suddenly change. It will keep on monitoring for 5 minutes to half an hour, such that it will gradually change, increase the output of the generator, and it will match that particular demand. Next, what is load following in the restructured process? So in restructured market, energy and ancillary services are unbundled. It is not bundled, it is unbundled. Okay, because this is in the all the different aspects, energy and ancillary services. Okay, in restructured power market, but load following is procured separately. Okay, because this is a separate entity, they will be following the load, and they will be giving the intimation to the generation companies. Okay, so that is procured separately, and the ISOs manage balancing through this market mechanisms. So if you take like a procurement methods, if you take like spot market, generator bids ramp ramping capability. Okay, generator bits, ramping capability. Okay, next, generators bits ramping capability in the spot market. If you take like long-term contracts market, fixed load following capacity will be there. Fixed load following capacity. If you take like co-optimized market, cleared with the energy market. So these are the procurement methods. Next comes the load following under different market models. So if you take like PoolCo model, it is centralized control will be there. So ISO's forecast total system load and generator submits bits. ISO dispatch the generators to follow the load. Okay, if you take like a feature controlling aspect, in the PoolCo it is centralized. Responsibility is ISO is the responsible. Independent system operator is the responsible person. Next is if you take like pricing based on the market clearing price. Flexibility high in the PoolCo market. Next comes the bilateral contracts model. We have already seen in very detail this model in our previous classes. If not, you go and refer. If you take like a decentralized control, Gencos and Discos signs a private contract. Okay, private contract means they will come into a MOU and they will sign the private contract. Each generator follow its contracted load. Okay, so ISOs ensure the security and reliability. So in bilateral market, the control is decentralized. It is not centralized. It is decentralized. Responsibility is whichever contracted GenCos. So they are the responsibility for that particular bilateral market. So pricing is based on contract based pricing. So what is the main role, ISO role in the bilateral market is to monitor. Whereas in the PoolCo market, the ISO role is to there also is the whole responsibility is ISO, and here also it is a monitor thing. So if you take like single buyer model, it is also called central agency model. Only one buyer, single buyer will be there. Okay, this single buyer will collect the all. That means retailer might be single buyer which collect all the bids. Okay, so dispatch based on the market participation factors. Okay, market participation factor. Generators also share the load changes proportionally. Okay, so in this model, buyer is one single entity, like similar to vertical integrated market. So buyer is one single entity. Dispatch, if you take like a market participation factor based dispatch. Okay. Next, load following shared responsibility will be there. Okay. Example: what are the main examples? Like some developing markets. Okay, they will use this central agency model. Next comes the comparison of all market models like PoolCo market, bilateral market, and single buyer market. So if you take like control, central control will be there, bilateral contract model, distributor control will be there, single buyer model also central control will be there. Next, if you take like load following, in the PoolCo market, ISO will take care of this load following, but in bilateral contract model, GenCos will take care of this load following. Okay, next single buyer model, central agency will be there. They will take care of the load following. And if you take like market signals in PoolCo market, the market signals are strong. In bilateral contract model, market signals are limited. Okay, next in the single buyer market, the market signals are moderate. So if you take like complexity, the PoolCo market it is very complex. Bilateral market medium, single buyer model it is low so many will go for single buyer model only because it is very easy for single buyer model if you there. Distribution system also, to maintain the distribution system also it is very easy in the single buyer model. And what are the typical resources providing load following? So if you take like thermal power plants, so coal and gas power plants are just the fuel inputs. So and if thermal power plants are also limited by using the ramp rate constraints, there is a ramp rate constraints is there. Whenever raise will come, whenever the it will suddenly drop will come. So based on that, that constraints also this thermal power plants can operate. Next, if you take like ramp rate in thermal power plant, it is moderate. If you take like flexibility, it is a medium. Cost is moderate. Emissions are higher because it is connected with the thermal power plant. So emissions are higher. So if you take like hydro power plants, best traditional load following resources. Okay, because the response speed is fast in hydro, because easily you can increase or decrease the load in hydro. Whereas in thermal, decrease and increase, minimum it will take some time, half an hour time, okay, like 1 hour time to immediately this. But in hydroelectricity model, response speed is fast. So if you take like ramp capability in the hydro market is high, because sudden peak means hydro market also easily you can respond. So ramp capability is high. Efficiency is high in this particular model, hydropower plant model. Cost low operating because no cost for water resources, hydro resources. So next, flexible conventional resources. So if you take like this CCGT, combined cycle gas turbine. So what is the main advantages in the load following is efficiency and fast ramp will be there. That means combined cycle gas turbine. So feedback also it will be always following the load, and if any changes, feedback will be given, and immediately it will this combined cycle gas turbine, the fuel of the gas will increase suddenly, and immediately you can raise the generation. That means fast ramp will be happening in this combined cycle gas turbine. So if you take like advanced nuclear, also advantage is there, stable and flexible it is there. In France model, they are using this advanced nuclear load following method. Next comes the gas turbine. So good mid-range following will be there. So here only gas turbine, here combined cycle gas turbine. Okay, combined cycle as a high efficient fast run. Okay, gas turbine, some mid-range following will be there for the load following. And if you take like emerging technologies in this field, battery energy storage systems are there. So, what are the features of this battery energy storage for load following? Is response time is within milliseconds. Okay, accuracy is also very high. RAM capability is excellent. If you take like limitation, energy duration. Okay, so energy duration is the main limitation. It will last up to 5 minutes, not more than 10 minutes. Okay, but battery is supposed, but costly. It will be very costly because storing that much amount of power is not possible. For limited usage, for a sudden um, uh, some 1 minute or 2 minutes, like that. In that case, you can go for this battery energy storage system. Next comes the demand side management for load follow. So curtailable loads are there. Next, industrial demand responses will be there. So based on that, load following should be followed. Next, EV charging control. There also demand side EV charging control. So what are the main advantages of demand side management? So no fear. Okay, cost effective will be there. Fast response, instant load rejection will be there, because sudden load changes mean that the frequency will be dropping. So what instant load rejection is following this kind of demand side response. Next, grid friendly. Grid friendly, it reduces the stress in the grid. Next comes the load following versus the operating reserves. So if you take like load following is the operating reserves, the purpose is to for load following is to track the demand. The operating reserves, it just handle the congestions. That's all. So if you take like speed, load following is medium, but operating reserves is spinning reserve generators will be there so fast. So predictability, load following high. because we are keep on following the load. So predictability side, the operating reserves low. If you take like market type, load following scheduled load following. So it is scheduled, but if you take like operating reserves, emergency. Okay, we can operate in emergency conditions also. So, what are the importance of load following with the renewables? So, with the integration of high wind and solar penetration, net load ramp increases. That means that curve we can call the deck curve. So, net ramp sudden change peak. Okay, net road ramp increases because with the integration of this high wind and solar penetration. So, load follows following demand. Rises. Okay, load will be load following also following the demand if suddenly rises. So flexibility becomes critical here. So renewable increases the need for load following even if they reduce the energy generations. Okay, increases the need for load following even if they reduce the energy generation. So in Indian context, if you see, load following is traditionally done by thermal and hydro, combination of thermal and hydro. So increasing role of battery energy storage system is there, demand side management is there, market based ancillary services, this MBAS, that is also there. So which supports the tight frequency band operation. So in these are all about the Indian context of load following in the brief we discussed.